Okay, so this is my presentation on the microplastic pollution problem, or our reasons why we should care about microplastic pollution. So, to start, what are microplastics? Well, according to an article by the Development and Cooperation Company, plastic particles and fibers are called microplastics by scientists if their length is less than 5 millimeters long or at least 1 micrometer. So essentially, they're very, very small particles of plastic. And what these very, very small particles of plastic can do is they could very effectively damage marine life and ecosystems once consumed in high concentrations. And what's more, they can take hundreds, if not thousands of years to fully decompose. So these synthetic particles are very damaging to the ecosystem for so many years at a time. And they can impact way more than people think. Many people are unsure or have no clue how these plastics even brought about so much damage to begin with when they first started. The history of microplastics, before plastic, we had organic like compounds. We used ivory from elephants, tortoise shells. We used so many organic elements, and once those began to grow scarce, we had to find other resources to use as products for the ecosystem, the economy. And what happened in 1869 was John Wesley Hyatt had created the first plastic derived from organic compounds. So he derived it from cellulose, which is an organic plant derivative. And he was the very first to discover this and create this, and it was the very first thing to replace the scarce natural organic materials. Not long after him, Leo Baekeland created the first fully synthetic microplastic. So essentially, there were no organic compounds within his version of the plastic. It was completely chemically derived. And it was this creation that kind of set the movement for plastic production in the economy. And it really just moved us away from producing organic or just fully natural products. And upon the ending of the Great Depression, the plastic industry completely skyrocketed. It boosted from after World War II, when the economy was trying its pickup. Everybody was producing plastic, everybody was purchasing plastic. And it wasn't until 1960, or the decade of 1960, that the problem hadn't been recognized. People only began recognizing the problem until disasters had occurred for them to grow concern toward our plastic production problem. Plastic had been found on beaches. It had been sources of fires and spills. It had been a very large ecosystem destructive factor. And it was at that point that we looked into the effects of plastic on not just our economy, but on marine life. And according to an article by the Journal of Experimental Biology, overall, microplastics were severely compromising fish's immunity. Specifically, in a study on zebrafish, it compromised a zebrafish's immunity. It completely caused all organism failure, severe microbial infection. So what essentially they found was the immune cells had, well, the number of immune cells had increased in the fish's system, and that led to their conclusion on the severe microbial infection in the fish. And this was just mimicked through high concentrations of microplastic in oceans. And this also kind of pivoted everybody's view on, okay, so this damages fish. How does microplastic affect human life? Many people concern themselves on how it damages fish, though many people are like, how does this affect humans? Well, humans, there is no determining impact on microplastic in humans. We are able to recognize that we can inhale it and we can ingest it, but there are no measurable tools to fully conclude certain damaging effects of microplastic on human bodily systems. That said, the reason that it obviously affects fish so much are the high concentrations of microplastic that we are putting in our oceans. This is the only separating factor that we can deduce from why it affects fish so severely from humans. There are no other measurable tools. However, research is being placed into the effects of microplastics on people. They're in places you would least expect, not only in our food, water, and air, they're in cosmetic products. And 50% of America's population are female. Cosmetics such as mascaras, skincare such as cleansers, scrubs, and sunscreens, these are common everyday products that we use that could potentially have microplastics in them, and then we are placing them on our topical skin surfaces. Hygiene products such as toothpastes, we put that in our mouths. We are not entirely sure of the effects of microplastics, but we were knowingly and willingly putting them on our faces and in our mouths via these products. And although studies are inconclusive of the effects of these products, is the risk worth it? That's a question for debate. Negative and positive impacts on society. Natural disaster prevention is a big one. Microplastics in oceans, that could effectively damage oceanic ecosystems and systems such as mangrove forests and coral reefs. If those become damaged, those are natural barriers to destructive forces such as hurricanes and tsunamis. And if we eliminate our microplastic pollution, we would essentially be able to keep those natural barriers thriving, and we wouldn't risk the destruction of these forces onto our homes on our land masses. Furthermore, that also leads to just the destruction of fish themselves through these microplastics. Our seafood industry is a big contributor and profiter to our economy. And as we keep deteriorating our fish populations in our oceans, that could also effectively wipe out our seafood industry. And that could also effectively wipe out so many jobs within that industry. The chemistry behind microplastics. So to begin, microplastics are essentially polymers. The most common polymer of plastic is polyethylene, and its molecular formula is C2H4, very basic nonpolar compound. And what it essentially is a very flexible, moldable compound. So it was discovered we could easily mold it into a variety of shapes and sizes and remold those shapes and sizes for a variety of cycles until that plastic no longer can decompose any further. So essentially what it is in its purest form is a white granular solid or a powder or a solid. And the imagery on this specific slide shows it could also be molded into a pellet formation, which is also commonly used in manufacturing industry and plants. It is a completely synthetic polymer, so referencing back before, it does not have any organic compounds found within it. It is completely chemically derived in manufacturing, nothing like Hyatt's polymer of plastic. And to move into the other effects of the chemistry of it, microplastic, we have no known effects on our human bodies with it, but it can act as a vector to carry toxic chemicals into our bodily systems. So no matter whether plastic is a harmful substance to us, it can carry harmful substances into us and effectively hurt us. So that is just another point made with the harms and the chemistry behind microplastic acting as a vector. Outside influences. The Microbead Free Water Act of 2015 effectively prohibited the manufacturing, packaging, distribution of rinse-off cosmetics. So essentially, there can no longer be any microbeads or high concentrations of microbeads in these products. So nowadays, you may not find as many products that contain a lot of microplastics. However, before this law, there were probably up to 10% of microplastics found within certain cosmetic products. Another outside influence would be Starbucks, well-known coffee company. Other than coffee, it has done a tremendous job at providing resources that are 100% sustainable. They have strawless lids for their cups. They're effectively wiping out the use of their plastic straws little by little. And they have also donated $10 million to help develop a fully recyclable and compostable hot cup. These contributions to further sustainable living and reduction of plastic production are going to help so much in the long run, and they could effectively influence other businesses to reduce their plastic consumption and move into more green territory with their plastic. So, to conclude, why should we care about microplastic pollution? Well, from the historical development of plastic and to our current production of plastic today, I say there are a variety of factors why we should prevent microplastic pollution. It's not just to save the fish, it's to save ourselves, our economy, our way of living. We could very well determine that microplastic is a cause of cancer in the next 10 years and it'd be too late. So in order to effectively prevent possible disaster, environmental, physical, theoretical, in the future, preventing microplastic pollution is just a start. Thank you.